Hello everyone, my name is Iwan Popa. I'm an astrophotographer and designer, and I wanted to show you how I image deep space objects with larger aperture telescopes ranging from 8 inches all the way to 14 inches, and from focal lengths that start at 600 millimeters all the way up to 3000 millimeters plus. In today's video, we're going to be looking at an image taken with a 12-inch Ritchie-Chrétien telescope that is 1680 millimeters f5.4. This is the telescope in the screen in front of me, sorry. It has a computer on top to help capture the data. It's mounted on a Paramount ME I, not the mount in the photo, and it is an incredible telescope. I use a QHY 600 Mono Pro camera along with Chroma 8 nanometers hydrogen alpha and 3 nanometers oxygen and sulfur. And for size comparisons, the photos here show it on a Orion HDX or Skywatcher EQ8. It is a pretty big telescope. It has a lot of advantages from the size of its primary mirror and the details that the aperture can collect. That's why I love using it. I will do more videos in the future explaining the software that I use, how I collect images, what is my process, and all that kind of stuff. But for today, let's look at an image I did earlier this year. I was imaging the iconic Eagle Nebula and the Pillars of Creation. So I did about 28 hours in total, out of which 10 hours were hydrogen, 9 hours were sulfur, and 9 hours were oxygen. The exposure time was 900 seconds for each individual image. Now, after I did that, I stacked them using DeepSkyStacker, and here are the stacked files. Now, with any CMOS sensor, I recommend you do darks and especially flats. These are the most important calibration frames you have to do, and they will make your images and your data be amazing. The hydrogen data looks very, very good. It is clean, crisp, and the pillars of creation look stunning for something taken from my backyard. Now, moving to the other spectrum, oxygen is one of the most noisiest channels you can image, but we'll not worry about that for now. We'll look at it later in processing, but still the signal is clean, the pillars of creation look good, so I'm pretty happy. Which is a mix. It is sometimes smooth as hydrogen, but it is also very rich in detail when it comes to the Eagle Nebula and the Pillars of Creation. So this is the data I collected, calibrated, and let's take a look at what I can do with this specific data after I stack it. So my process is a little bit different. When I stack an image, I make sure to process it in a way that helps my nebulosity and protects my stars. So the first thing, I stacked it as a run-of-the-mill narrowband Hubble palette with sulfur in red, hydrogen in green, and oxygen in blue. As you can see, the details are beautiful. The hydrogen is overwhelming as expected, and the stars look pretty good, but I think we can tighten up the stars and increase some of the details in the nebulosity quite a bit. So the next step for me is deconvolution. And it's already starting to look a lot sharper, a lot cleaner. The stars are looking a little bit more tight, and it's already starting to look pretty good. Now, this is where my next step is a little bit different. I stretch the image and I do a SCNR on green, then I invert the image and I clean up the magenta stars, as you can see here, and any other magenta gradient that happens. This is starting to look pretty impressive for, again, for a backyard image taken in a Bortle 7. So this is where things get interesting and actually fun. My process involves removing the stars. So as we look at this starless image, we can start seeing the immense amount of nebulosity that I'm actually targeting in the center of the Eagle Nebula, especially on the pillars of creation. Now, the beautiful part about chroma filters and really good narrowband filters is you won't see any residual stars that will affect your nebulosity. You will not see any donuts. That's why I'm zooming out. You will not see any empty artifacts. So after I create the starless image, I also make a copy of the stretched image to protect the stars. That looks like this. So nothing special about it. It's stretched reasonably well, not too much. And then I actually focus on the starless image, which is where the bulk of the work is in increasing the nebulosity. Now, the first thing I do, I start playing with S-curves. So for example, it would be something like this, where I would use the curves transformation tool to pull the details out and then also pull the saturation out and then go forth as much as I think is needed. I don't look at noise for now. That doesn't matter. The noise will be dealt with towards the end. I also applied the HDR multi-transform to start pulling in the blue in the center next to the pillars of creation. After I'm happy with my starless image, start looking at the next step, which is color mixing and some more texture improvements. Now, this is done by taking the image into Photoshop and starting to increase the texture first. As you can see here, the dust is much more visible, much more clear, and it's starting to look like an image that I really like. Once I'm happy with this specific transformation and range selecting, I bring it back for a few more changes related to denoising and sharpening. And as you can see, the color mixing has happened. I went from the goldish color scheme to something slightly more red, as sulfur is more red, hydrogen is red. I don't like the golden theme that comes with the Hubble palette. At this time, I'm really impressed with the image. It shows a lot of nebulosity, it shows a lot of dust and the details that come with it. And the pillars of creation are looking really good. I'm starting to be excited at this point. So the next step is to actually bring back the stars. Now this can be a bit tricky. Remember, the stars look like this. As you can see, this is a pretty rich area. So in this particular example, I'm actually going to try to not bring a lot of these stars in here. So for my image, I want to make sure people focus on the nebulosity, on the beautiful pillars of creation that Hubble has made so famous, and now James Webb has taken an even more impressive shot. So the final image that I came up with is this. Now, bear in mind, this is not a scientific image. I'm not trying to detect the type of stars, the magnitude. I'm only trying to show the beauty of space objects and just show the details that a larger aperture telescope can pull if processed properly, and also kind of show my type of processing and my type of images. So now I'm going to show you two different images. This is the first time I stacked this data, and this is the time I stacked it now. I personally like the version on the left a lot more. So I'm going to go into a cropped view here of the pillars of creation. Now, I like the left version more. Please feel free to let me know which version you like. The reason I brought this in more because the stars in this version were not taking out while processing the image. So this means that the stars have really some artifacts around them. As you can see, there's halos around them from the software trying to reduce them. They are overly saturated. and they're not looking as clean as and good as these. Now, I have different ways of processing images, and I always process them multiple times just to see which workflow works the best. The reason I'm showing this workflow is because it was recently very successful in earning me a NASA Astrophotography of the Day for November 14th for the Wizard Nebula that I submitted. NASA appreciated the kind of aesthetics in that nebula. Now, personally, because this is a false color and monochrome image, it can go either way. For my specific workflow, I really like looking at the nebulosity and showing people what can be achieved by increasing the amount of signal, stretching the image, and making it pretty incredible. So I would leave you with this image. This is my first video. I will make sure to show you guys how I image, how I collect data, and actually do a live processing session, either through my work with Telescope Express or as a separate video. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments. If you like my work, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also check out my Instagram and my astrobin if you want to really see high resolution images. And I hope you enjoyed this video and some of the work I've showed. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you.